Tonight, you're going to stand in front of a fridge and complain that there's nothing to eat. Shelves packed with food, and somehow it feels like a crisis. Your ancestors would find that hilarious, because for most of human history, the question wasn't what to eat, it was whether there would be anything at all. But here's the strange part. The diet you think our ancestors ate is almost completely wrong. You've heard the story. Caveman hunts a mammoth. Caveman eats meat around a fire. Caveman is lean, muscular, thriving on protein. It's the entire premise behind a diet that sells millions of books every year. But when scientists actually dug into the evidence, literally dug into fossilized teeth and ancient dirt, they found something far stranger than steak. Let's go back. Not a few generations, not a few centuries. Go back nearly 2 million years to a landscape that looked nothing like a supermarket aisle. Your early ancestors weren't apex predators. They didn't have claws, they didn't have fangs. They were slow, soft-skinned, and outmatched by nearly every animal around them. So how did they survive? The answer starts with a scientist named Amanda Henry. She studies something most people would walk right past, the plaque on ancient teeth. That plaque, called dental calculus, hardens over time and traps tiny particles of whatever a person last chewed. When Henry examined the fossilized teeth of Neanderthals and early humans, she found starch grains, not meat fibers, starch grains from roots, tubers, seeds, and grasses. Some of them even showed signs of being cooked.
That single detail rewrote the story. It meant early humans weren't just chasing animals across the savannah. They were digging, foraging, testing which roots wouldn't kill them. Your ancestors' survival didn't depend on strength. It depended on curiosity. Every unfamiliar plant was a gamble, and every generation that gambled correctly passed that knowledge forward. Isn't it strange to think your appetite for trying new foods might be an inherited survival trait? Meat mattered too, but not in the way the myth suggests. Anthropologists like Henry Bunn, who studied ancient butchery sites in East Africa, found cut marks on animal bones dating back nearly 2 million years. But those marks tell a more complicated story than hunting alone. Many of the bones showed signs of scavenging. Early humans weren't always the hunters. Sometimes they were the opportunists, arriving after a lion had already eaten, cracking open bones for marrow the predators couldn't reach. Marrow. Bone marrow was fatty, calorie-dense, and packed with nutrients your ancestors desperately needed. Getting to it required something animals couldn't do. Tools. A sharpened rock. A moment of insight that changed everything. While a leopard walked away from a carcass, your ancestors saw an opportunity hidden inside the bone itself. Now here's where the story gets even stranger. Cooking. You'd think fire was just about warmth or safety, but a researcher named Richard Wrangham built an entire theory around a bolder idea. He argued that cooking didn't just change what humans ate, it changed what humans became. Raw food takes enormous energy to digest. Your gut has to work overtime to break down tough plant fibers and raw meat. But cooked food is already partially broken down before it even reaches your stomach. Wrangham proposed that once early humans started cooking consistently, their bodies redirected the energy once used for digestion. Where did that energy go? Straight to the brain. Suddenly, less energy spent chewing and digesting meant more energy available for thinking, planning, and problem solving. A researcher named Catherine Zink tested part of this idea by studying how much chewing force raw versus cooked food actually requires. Her findings supported something remarkable. Cooking may have saved your ancestors literally years of chewing over a lifetime. Fewer hours spent grinding food meant more hours spent doing everything else that makes a human. So the caveman eating a slab of raw meat around an unlit fire, that image barely existed. Fire wasn't a backdrop, it was the technology that built your brain. But diet wasn't just one thing across all of prehistory. That's the biggest myth of all.
There was no single prehistoric diet, the same way there's no single modern diet today. What your ancestors ate depended entirely on where they lived. In coastal regions, isotope analysis of ancient bones has revealed diets rich in shellfish and fish, sometimes making up the majority of caloric intake. In grassland regions, diets leaned harder on tubers, seeds, and large game. In forested regions, insects, fruit, and small animals filled the gap. Your ancestors weren't following a single nutritional plan. They were adapting constantly to whatever their environment offered. And yes, insects were on the menu, not as a survival last resort, but as a reliable protein-rich food source in many regions. Even today, over 2 billion people around the world still eat insects as a normal part of their diet. The idea that this is strange or extreme says more about modern Western food culture than it does about human history. Here's the twist that undoes the whole caveman myth. Your ancestors weren't optimized eaters chasing a perfect macro split. They were flexible generalists. Their survival strategy wasn't meat and it wasn't plants. It was adaptability itself. The species that made it through ice ages, droughts, and migrations across entire continents wasn't the pickiest eater. It was the one willing to eat almost anything that wouldn't kill it.
That flexibility is still written into your body today. Your digestive system carries enzymes for breaking down starches, fats, and proteins because your ancestors needed all three, constantly shifting depending on the season and location. You don't crave one food group because your biology was built for one food group. You crave variety because variety kept your ancestors alive. Which brings us back to that fridge, the one that feels empty despite being full. Modern diet culture loves to sell certainty. Eat this, not that. Follow this ancient blueprint and unlock your best self. But there was no single blueprint. There was only adaptation, curiosity, and the willingness to try something new when the old options ran out. Every time you reach for an unfamiliar dish at a restaurant or convince yourself to eat vegetables you didn't grow up liking, you're doing exactly what kept your ancestors alive for 2 million years. Not following a rule book, testing the world one bite at a time. So tonight, when you stand in front of that fridge complaining that there's nothing to eat, remember what your ancestors would have given for that problem. Not a crisis of choice, a luxury of abundance. And maybe the real answer isn't found in what they ate at all. It's in how willing they were to eat almost anything.
Thank you for watching. For more educational and informative videos, please like and subscribe to my channel, Doodle2D.